Okay, welcome everyone. Ready to take another deep dive? Going down the deep end. I was trying to think what would be really fun. And I thought tonight, we'll try to do it in one session, but tonight we will try to demystify relationships. Anybody here had any issues or troubles at all in relationships? Well, we have to demystify them. When you were born, did you get an owner's manual that told you specifically about special relationships and what they're for and how to heal and everything like this? Yeah, that was our download at birth. But it was sometimes it gets a little buried in the unconscious mind, and it's actually what we're praying for is to just be happy. And we don't seem to know how, we seem to forget, and we seem to have more difficulties in relationships than in a lot of other areas of our life, and it can seem very intense, and it can involve a lot of emotions, a lot of guilt, and a lot of grief, and a lot of loss. And so, yeah, let's just demystify it. So, what is the purpose of relationships? What? Forgiveness, okay. And then, what have we used relationships for besides forgiveness? Protection? Projection. Protection. Security, safety, validation, importance, love, substitution, acceptance. What was that? Sex. Very good. We're not going to miss anything tonight. Someone's honest in the room. Getting. Getting. Oh, wow. We come to this world to get something, and then we get a target in mind, and then, oh, it's difficult after that point. Yeah, and it's like Jesus tells us in A Course in Miracles, seek not outside yourself, for it will fail, and you will weep each time an idol falls. So it seems like, in the Bible it talked about, one of the commandments, I think, was hold no graven images before the Lord thy God. And, we thought he was talking about, like gold statues, totem poles or something. No. It's broader than that. What?
Very convenient.
Very convenient. Yeah, this seems to be Distractionville, and this seems to be Idolville, the whole cosmos. It doesn't matter if you go to a different planet, a different galaxy, a different solar system, there seems to be something here where there's some kind of mesmerism of looking for love in all the wrong faces, too many places, looking for love in form, and not finding it in the form. Maybe the I am presence, maybe divine love, maybe the abstraction that we were created as the Christ is what the love really is, and then the substitutes, oh wow, you seem to go through them. And I don't know if everyone here see the Matrix movie, the Matrix trilogy? There's a point in the Matrix trilogy where Neo goes to see the architect. And when he goes to see the architect basically tells him the problem is choice. I mean, most of us are raised with choice being a good thing, and Jesus even says in a metaphorical way that the greatest gift that God bestowed upon his son, a sleeping son, is choice. And what he meant by that was, if you could try to change your mind and be something other than God created you, if you tried to be flesh instead of spirit, that the greatest choice, the greatest gift you could have would be the gift to choose and change your mind back to accept yourself as spirit. Wouldn't that be, if you made the mistake, you did the oops and you tried something impossible, then the greatest gift would have to be the opportunity to choose a correction or a salvation, let's call it a redemption. Let's just say the salvation is not so much a person, but it's salvation of the mind. And Jesus says, only the mind can be salvaged, and only salvaged through peace. So he's telling us people can't be saved. He's telling us countries can't be saved. We can't save the animals. We can't save Mother Earth. We really can't save anything, but we can save our mind, and that mind that will say, believed it fell from grace and forgot God, that's the mind that needs salvation. And he says it's only saved through peace. So it's never saved through something external. It's only seeing, oh my gosh, I am the one. That was the message of the Matrix. You are the one. And that's the message Jesus is saying. In fact, we listened to that song, Healing of God's Son, and Jesus said this morning to us, many great people have come to remind you that the Savior is you, meaning your mind. Your mind that decided to fall from grace can decide to accept grace. And that's really the point of life. And that would have to be the point of our relationships too. It wouldn't be really to get something from them. It would be like going to idols and saying, please give me what I'm lacking, what I'm missing. And that is a really dark journey, because no matter how much you hope for and expect somebody to provide something, love, acceptance, anything, abundance, material things, anything that you would expect from someone else, it would mean that you first must believe that you're lacking yourself, and that you would look to the relationship to fulfill what's missing, to complete. I remember there was a very beautiful family therapist named John Bradshaw. Some of you probably heard of John Bradshaw. And he said, well, the formula in human relationships tends to be more, it's like a codependency equation of setup. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. And that's why people sometimes say, have you found your better half yet? Because, they're caught up in the half equation. And then John Bradshaw says, but it's not an addition equation, 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. It's actually a multiplication equation. So 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/4. And that's about what you feel when you go for it, looking for your better half, and then you feel like, I'm 1/4 of who I should be. How did that happen? And then he comes around and says, 1 times 1 equals 1. Come from your own wholeness and relate to everybody in their wholeness. I'm whole and complete, you're whole complete, and let's rejoice in our Creator, who is one. So tonight we have I thought we needed something a little shorter so we could have a lot of quick Q&A and kind of really go into demystifying relationships, because it seems that whenever we want anything from a relationship, want to get something from it, then it's doomed from the very desire to get something. And God doesn't even know what getting means. God only gives. Creation, an extension of love, spirit is a pure gift, and God only gives. And so we have to begin to start to think and flow in that divine giving in order to realize the abundance of ourselves and everyone in that giving. There's no cost to giving. In the world of reciprocity and lack, if you have $1 million and you divide its ownership, then you have $500,000 and somebody else has $500,000. And Jesus is basically saying that's not how it works, that giving always leads to an increase. So if you become a miracle worker and you extend miracles to everyone that you meet, the miracles bless the giver and the receiver. That actually giving always involves extension and increase. It never involves lack or loss. So you see it goes against the laws of economics. When you divide your own ownership, or if you were going to be a philanthropist and give away $1 million, everyone would say, well, okay, then the receiver got the million and the philanthropist lost $1 million. So giving and losing is equated in this world, and in reality, giving is always associated with the sense of increase. Even if we just say increase in awareness of divine love, not increase in a quantitative way, but increase in a qualitative way, like more aware of the glory of love, what love really is. So we have a little mini movie. Some of you might have heard of the series called Black Mirror. And we're going to watch a Black Mirror episode together today. And a friend of mine who just wrote to me today, he had recommended this. He had said, "Oh, you should go to this season and this episode, and this will be very helpful." So I watched it. I think I was in Mexico, and I went, good teaching device for. I think I will rename the Black Mirror episode Awakening Through Relationships, because we're looking for the value of relationships, what they're for. And we wouldn't really want to use relationships for anything other than what they're truly intended for. Now, I mentioned Neo went to the architect in the Matrix trilogy, and when he got to the architect, there were all these like TV screens put together, and basically in all of the screens there was Neo in some situation in his life, and it wasn't good. It was acting out all of the darkness of the world and in all of his situations. And there are all these screens with different scenarios. And then the architect says the problem is choice. And then the architect mentioned that this was an anomaly. Now, that you might say that what we consider to be a human lifetime is an anomaly. Why is it an anomaly? Because God created us perfect, and we're still in heaven with God in perfect oneness. So this human, we'll call it like anomaly that we call a lifetime, is really just an attempt to establish the impossible. Let's say God's will is for perfect happiness, and separation is, I think I can do better than perfect happiness. And then we have the anomaly. So what Jesus says is, everyone comes and tries to solve the riddle of their life. So what seems to be our lifetime, our struggles on earth are part of an anomaly or a riddle. And basically, in the end, we have to give up the search for the riddle and accept the correction that Jesus accepted for us and showed us the way. And that's very important, because without really seeing the problem exactly as it is, then we search for solutions and little course corrections in form and little adjustments, and we always are a little unsatisfied with those corrections. Okay, how's your life? Going good, it's going better. How's it going? Could be better. Sounds very human. Could be better, could have more fulfillment, and that's part of the anomaly. It's like you're searching for something in form and not finding it. And so you finally give up the search. Not give up the search for God, but give up the search in form for God. I mean, if God can't be defined, why would we think we could find God in a specific form. That's what form is. A lamp is only a lamp based on the concepts and the learnings and beliefs about the lamp, the type of the lamp, the texture of the lamp, the color, the height, the width. All those things are the past. So we wouldn't even know what a lamp was without the past. It's just a bunch of concepts strung together. And the same thing happens in relationships. We have so many categories of relationships. We think some are more important than others. Very strange. Agape, universal love, and we think we can define it and say which is better. And once we go down that rabbit hole, oh wow, heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, and all kinds of variations, and then some strange belief that some are better than others, and some are more godly than others, and everything. And it's the anomaly. We don't realize we have bought off something about what we think we know about relationships, and then we operate from those beliefs about the relationships, and we feel guilt about the relationships because partial awareness is not helpful. Only holistic awareness. So this little clip tonight, and what we're going to go through tonight, is really to give you a very, very expansive experience of true relationship, and which is really with God. That's what we're praying for. We're praying that our consciousness, our awareness expands into the fullness of God's love. So this is sometime in the future. It's going to be a kind of a setting where they go there, and the relationships are all for a sense of learning. And what Jesus tells us in the Course, in the Manual for Teachers, at one point he says, all relationships are maximal. In other words, every relationship has the purpose for you to teach and learn who you really are, through forgiving, releasing everything that you're not. So all relationships are maximal. There aren't some relationships that are better or worse. You may think some are like casual encounters, and some are fairly intensive relationships over a period of time, and maybe you even feel you have a lifelong relationship with someone. But in the end, there is no order of difficulty in miracles, and there is no hierarchy of illusions, and we can't really judge the relationships and categorize them. We can believe we can, and suffer because there has to be a quantum experience. There has to be a unified aha experience where we realize the point of all the relationships, that what they were actually for. And in that sense, we graduate we'll say we graduate from specialness to holiness. We graduate from getting to giving, to all-inclusive, from exclusive to all-inclusive. And that's the celebration. So in this little mini-movie, we'll call it, this episode, people will be drawn together in very specific assignments, and they will be coached along using their little digital coaching devices. Like we have smartphones, they have little devices. And they're going to be coached in these relationships, but all the relationships are, we could say, prearranged. And in one sense, that's how it is with us. We may think that we have the power to decide when a relationship begins and when it ends. And we may think, wow, we have that choice. But in the end, even that is arrogant, because the ego set up the relationships in the first place. So anything we believe about the relationships is really false. And we have to come to see the falsity. We have to kind of expose everything we believe about relationships to be finally freed up. So in this session tonight, you're going to see a sequence of arranged relationships, and then we will use these, what we're watching tonight, to kind of work towards an ultimate realization. And I hope when you leave this room tonight, you will have demystified relationships forever. You will never have any more guilt over relationships. Just full gratitude, just full appreciation. Just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Oh, you played your part exquisitely. Academy Award for you. You just really did it so good to help my mind recognize the truth, and that's what we're going for. So, okay, right away. Rules? Anybody have any rules with your relationships? And they talk about the system. First time with the system, the whole system. Did you ever watch the Al Pacino movie and Justice for All? The judge is banging the gavel, telling Al Pacino's lawyer character, "You're out of order. You're out of order. You're ordered." Pacino, "I'm out of order. You're out of order." To the judge, "The whole system is out of order," he says, and it's rules. We have so many rules in the relationships, and here they are, just meeting for the first time. They were going to choose their meal. No, it's already been chosen for them. This is all prearranged, and they're looking around. Is this according to the rule? Are we allowed to do this? Or are we allowed to try each other's food? What are we allowed to do and what are we not allowed to do? This is the human condition. And you might say the mind that's asleep and dreaming has just accepted all the rules. It's accepted gravity. It's accepted nutrition. It's accepted the laws of economics, supply and demand. It's accepted the laws of medicine. It's accepted everything. And we know in specific in relation to relationships, there are rules. And what are you supposed to do in relationships? Follow the rules. Follow the rules. As well as society, as well as at your job, as well as in your family. And when you don't follow the rules, then there are consequences. That's why you've got to follow the rules. You got a big smile. You look like you're ready to never follow another rule in your life. You're just playing with us all. You're going to follow God now, and you're not going to follow any other rules. and you're laughing. That's good. That's good. We all need that. That's it. So here we go. They're already looking around, though. Is this according? Can we do this? And this is the problem. You see the stress. Is it all right? Can we do this? There's ethical rules, there's moral rules, there's scientific physics, the laws of physics. We're supposed to obey the laws of physics. For every action there's a reaction, and on and on and on. But who set this up? Do you really think God would set up a situation for his beloved child that involves so many rules? It must be the ego has set up all the rules. And we've seen movies where the character will say, "I'm not going to follow the rules anymore." Like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, when he starts to realize it's a loop. I'm not going to follow the rules anymore. And then he tries to break all the rules. Tries to kill himself even over and over and over in that movie. But he keeps waking up in the loop of time. So these must be very deeply rooted ego beliefs. If they're, even time itself is part of a loop, a false loop. That's a false rule. And Jesus is saying, well, what if there is no time? What if this instant is the only instant there is? Really, not just metaphorically, but what if actually the present moment is? And how would you live your life if you just felt that the present moment was all that there was? You certainly wouldn't have stress and fear in the present moment. It's just the time factor. This is the human condition, choice. choice, all these options, and the desire for love, the desire for connection, the search for what they're calling a compatible partner. You can see these two come together and it's kind of a nice vibration, a nice light connection, really pretty happy, joking with each other from the beginning at the restaurant, just joking, not taking anything so seriously. And yet, then when they finally do go to the place, they're like talking with coach, what do I do? What do I do? The awkwardness of human relationships, the awkwardness. There seems to be something underneath the relationship, some kind of unfulfillment or split or paradox or something that's operating like the princess and the pea. Beneath all the mattresses, there's a pea down there, a little ego pea. And all those padded mattresses don't keep us from feeling uncomfortable because there's so many rules. You see, they're just so concerned about the rules. Are we allowed to? What are we allowed to do? It's your decision. It's like, oh wow, this is what Maria was saying. Maria, you're here. There's Maria. She's not well, but Maria was asking the decision question today, and that's a difficult one. None of us feel well when we're struggling with decisions. None of us feel well. And if this is some kind of mysterious time-space thing, we have to get to the bottom of it. It's so important that we release the awkwardness. We have to release the ambiguity. We have to release the uncertainty. We have to release whatever hidden conflict is down there that brings this tension up into our relationships. Because we all are aware that, there must be something that we can decide that can bring an end to the conflict. If God is love and we're a creation of God, it must be that we can actually find our way back to home, back to heaven, back to harmony, love, pure love. And so decision is at the basis of this. They've got their coach and they keep talking to the coach. It's some kind of an AI device. and they're trying to follow the AI device and ask as many questions, but now it seems right away they're both being sent into the next relationship, and she's like saying, that's fast, and both of them are kind of have a reaction, like, that's hard, I hardly got a breather, just got over the first one. You're throwing me another. But there is a purpose behind it all, and that's what we really hope to discover tonight. Like, what is underneath this? What is it that will release my mind from this burden of expectation? Because as long as we're expecting things from the relationship, we're not going to find the fulfillment. We have to get into giving mode. We have to be able to show up with all the love in the universe to come through us in order for us to give and receive it, to feel that connection. Okay. Now, we have to always remember what we talked about at the beginning when I said, what are relationships for? What was the first word that you said? Forgive, forgive, forgive. The thing is, based on past learning and past experiences and everything based on the past, there are expectations for the relationships. That they'll sound a certain way, they'll smell a certain way, they'll go a certain way, there'll be certain guidelines and rules, they'll look a certain way. And, when you look at it from the perspective of forgiveness, I was saying that forgiveness is quiet and silently does nothing. It looks and waits and watches and judges not. You could really equate forgiveness with non-judgment. if you took Jesus' teachings from the New Testament and you boiled them down, you could only take 2 words from the Sermon on the Mount and get the whole thing, the whole download. Judge not. Okay? Judge not, lest you be judged. Judge not. That must be the purpose of relationships too. To judge not. That's what forgiveness is. It's non-judgment. It's pure acceptance. But in order to accept all things exactly as they are, including the world, including the environment, including the countries, the politics, including everything, including relationships, a state of total acceptance would be what forgiveness would be. To be able to literally let all things be exactly as they are. But we can see that what Jesus is teaching us is basically that we are responsible for our state of mind. We're responsible for happiness. Some of you might have even heard of Viktor Frankl's book, Search for Meaning. Even in a concentration camp, he realized in a Nazi concentration camp that nobody could take his dignity away. Nobody could take his peace away. No circumstances. It was a huge, like a realization, how powerful it is. And don't you think Gandhi felt the same thing when he was in prison? He must have had those moments like, wow, I can be happy right here. Doesn't matter whether I'm in a prison or not with the body. My mind can soar, and I can write about nonviolence and all kinds of exchange vegetarian recipes with the guards, and I can have a blast. And don't you think Nelson Mandela felt the same thing? At some point, he must have realized that the freedom was an inner freedom. Because if you don't give way to the inner freedom, then you're just stuck with time. When will I get out? Jeffrey and I have a friend, Dale. How many years has Dale been in prison? 22 years. And wow, he is going to town with spiritual awakening. He's just absorbing and diving in every day, diving in. Started doing what I'm doing here, having movie gatherings in the prison. Course of Miracles ideas in the prison. Whole prison started lighting up until finally the warden had to move him to another prison, to start the fire somewhere else. Got too happy in that prison. He was going to town with it. And what Jesus is saying is, I am responsible for what I see, for what I perceive. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve, and everything that happens to me I ask for and have received as I have asked. Wow, that's great. Thank you, Jesus. No victimization, no mistreatment, no abuse. Wow, it must be that I've tricked myself with this ego belief system into some pretty crazy, insane stuff that actually isn't true. So I must be believing something that's false if I'm not experiencing bliss and joy and love and peace and happiness. It must be there's some trickery, some self-deception involved. And here we can see what a mirror relationships are for the temptation to judge. I like, I don't like. Attraction, repulsion. That's the human condition. That's the condition of the anomaly of trying to play human, trying to play small instead of accepting my Christ self. So right away you can see that what is becoming aware from these relationships we've been watching is that sense of looking for fulfillment, but this judging between what I like and what I don't like. And you might say that's really fulfilling when we say relationships are forgiveness. It's really showing the depth of forgiveness that's necessary. It's talking about that deep, deep forgiveness that goes beyond opposites. It goes beyond duality. That shows us we've been mistaken about our dualistic, split, fragmented perception, and that really we do have a perceptual problem, and that relationships, I think that's the thing about Jesus. He really incorporates the relationships into the mind training. And a lot of traditional spiritual pathways did not. Don't look at someone from the opposite sex and go live in the cave, go live in the woods, become an ascetic, What should I do? Take the path of renunciation. Renounce everything. Renounce everything. And there are those who have tried it, and then Jesus puts it into his workbook. He says, there are many who have tried to renounce the world while still believing in it. Oh, wow. He just took a big swipe at centuries of spiritual pathways of renunciation. There's something there. He is telling us to give up the world, but he says many have tried to renounce the world while still believing in it. Belief. We've got to go deep into the belief, because if we give the power of our mind over to belief, you put faith and belief together, and it's a powerful force that can move mountains. If you had the faith of the size of the grain of a mustard seed, you could move mountains. Oh, we're doing more than moving mountains. We're moving planets. We're moving solar systems. We're moving galaxies. We're moving the Milky Way. And we're moving everything outside the Milky Way. We're moving more than mountains with our faith. One time, Helen Schuckman was getting kind of curious, so she, scribing for Jesus, she said, but what does astrology and astronomy and the movement of the stars and the planets have to do with human relationship? Here she was, a research psychologist in New York City, wondering what's the connection between astrology and the movement of the spheres to human relationships. And Jesus said, well, your mind is powerful, and it's moving all those bodies around, all those relationships you see, it's moving all of them. And behind that, it's moving all the stars and the planets too. I fell out of bed. I just rolled off the bed. Oh my God, boom, and that is how powerful our mind is. So if we have a powerful mind, we use our faith to believe in something that's not true, then we have Maya, we have illusion, we have trickery, we have self-deception, we have images, idle images, and it's not the images themselves aren't the problem, it's just that we've identified with them. We've identified with the images instead of realizing we're the I am presence, we're the divinity that's prior to all the images, that we are unlimited, we have limitless power in mind, not as a person, but limitless power of mind. So it's great when we watch this because, we're having a good laugh, it looks comical, but the reason we laugh is because there's something in us that goes, damn, look at this, like this is what I'm dealing with on a daily basis, in my own way, my own private world. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm dealing with, and it's good that we can laugh at it, but we also need help. We need to go deeper. We need to go beyond it. We can't just laugh and say, "Oh, I'm a fool, and so is everyone else," and just say we are fools. That's a start. But there has to be something deeper than foolishness. There has to be a reality. There has to be light. There has to be wisdom. So, okay, here we go. Happy, maybe even more happy. They're not checking the expiry date. You see there's some kind of a decision to not put so much emphasis on time. And don't we all get happier when we don't put so much emphasis on time? We start to realize how important it is to be spontaneous. We start to realize it's important to be intuitive. We start to realize it's important to be guided. That's how we expand. That's how we get closer to the light. The closer we come to the present moment, the more closer we come to the light. Jesus says that the present moment is the closest approximation to eternity that this world offers. That's from the Master. If the Master is telling us that the present moment is the closest approximation to eternity that this world offers, I don't know about you, but to me that is a call. That is a calling. How willing am I to go towards that present moment? How willing am I to set aside the beliefs, the rituals, the traditions, the concepts, all the beliefs of should, ought to, have to, that Greg was singing about, the shoulda, the woulda, the coulda, all the things he was singing about from that happy state of mind. How willing am I to let go of that? And that's really what in the world is called fear of intimacy. It's not really fear of a physical or a sexual intimacy. It's the fear of approaching the present moment and losing the make-believe world and the make-believe identity. It's a fear of loss. It's a fear of sacrifice. If I let go into the present moment, what am I going to have to give up? I have a movie, a Star Trek episode called The Thaw, but we renamed it called Time's End, where this little society, the people get caught in a planetary disaster, so they bury themselves underground, and then while they're in a computer-generated world, Elon Musk has said this is a simulation. Most scientists agree that this is a simulation. They don't know how it started or what it is, but they can pretty much agree it's a simulation. But the fear takes hold inside the simulation, and then there's a fear to be released from the simulation. So at some point, Captain Janeway comes along and Ensign Kim says, yeah, I've checked it out. They have a wake-up device. They put themselves to sleep, and they do have a wake-up device. Janeway says, why aren't they using the wake-up device? I don't know. Is it working? Yes. The wake-up device is functioning, and they're not using it. Why? Fear. And then someone says, maybe they like it in there. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting down to, if the wake-up device is still there, the Holy Spirit, and it's still functioning as the Holy Spirit is, and the mind is choosing to listen to the ego instead of the Holy Spirit, that must mean there must be some sick attraction, some addiction to fear that is generating a fear of love, a fear of awakening. So we may think we're afraid of things in the world, but we're actually afraid of the love. Because we've identified with the ego, then we're afraid of love. But love is not fearful. Even in the Bible it says, fear God and keep His commandments. It just means hold God in awe. God is an awe-inspiring God. Pure love, beyond anything this world could comprehend. So, as we see it here, how beautiful, now that they've come back, and they seem to have more joking and laughing and connection than even before, and they agree not to check the expiry date. And to me, that's just saying, okay, let's have a spontaneous relationship, and let's go and be as spontaneous as we can be, and go for that, which is really their way of saying, let's go to see how we can live in the present. And you can see what a blessing that is through this episode. That's good. They got into the simulation talk, and she was She's beginning to question the system. She's got some intuition. She's beginning to question the system. And he was saying, well, what if it's part of a simulation? And then she pinches him and he goes, ow. And then, she says, that settles it right there. And he says, what if I was pre-programmed to say ow? Really all of the sensations that we experience through the five senses are all part of a gigantic programming. All of the pleasures are part of the programming, all of the pain, and you can believe that you have an individual mind, a private mind with a private consciousness that can choose the pleasures and choose the pains, try to maximize the pleasures, try to minimize the pains. But the script is written, as Paul and I were talking about, the script is written and it is all programmed. Everything that seems to be what the body feels, all of its pleasures and pains and all the gradations and variations of that is part of a pre-programmed plan of the ego to keep the mind focused on the body identification. In fact, pleasure and pain seem to be different, but Jesus is telling us they're actually the same because they both reinforce a bodily identity. Think of it. When you have a migraine headache, are you thinking of God? And when you're in an orgasm, are you thinking of God, or is there some intense physical pleasure that you're thinking of and enjoying? You see, it's pre-programmed. And Jesus tells us the body doesn't feel. He says the mind tells the body what to feel. The mind tells the body what to feel. And that it's the ego mind that is telling all the things that seem to be the range of human experiences and sensations and human emotions. Those emotions and those perceptions of what seem to be sensory experiences are all pre-programmed. It's all part of the anomaly. And yet, if we watch this, you saw this woman going through all those, first the relationship for 9 months with, and then 36 hours, again 36 hours, until she started to become more detached, as she even said. It was just a body. I was like looking at myself and looking at the bodies. So she was like describing an out-of-body experience after those 36 hours. You can see she's evolving and advancing in consciousness because she's starting to view it. And then she comes together with him again and she's making jokes around the sexuality, around undressing. She's playfully making jokes about it. And continuing to make, there's a very much of a lightheartedness. And this is what happens when you start to get higher and higher in consciousness. You start to take the body and the hero of the dream and all the five senses less and less, you give them less importance, you give them less meaning. You start to feel more a detachment. Not a detachment is in being aloof or being separated, but a detachment that's based on a lightheartedness, a laughter, a joy, a peace. When she started off with this guy at the very beginning, when they were just laying there, it was a bit awkward, but then she just seemed to relax and relax more, and then she reached out and took his hand, and to me it looked like she just went into a meditation. It looked like he went into it too. They both just held hands and sunk into this meditation. And then again, you could see the glow in her eyes as she's just laying there, holding hands again, which she wanted to do with this other guy, and sinking deeper and deeper into that love, that connection that transcends the body, transcends the world. So you can see that she's really starting to reflect that she's onto something. First of all, she is questioning the entire system. She is questioning the entire system. What does Jesus say in the Course in Miracles? To learn this course requires willingness to question every value that you hold. Not one can be kept hidden, or it will obscure your learning. Oh, that sounds like Socrates. That sounds like the great mystics and the great saints of all time telling us, question everything, take nothing of this world for granted. And there's Jesus even coming, telling us to question everything. And don't stop until you make it to the truth. Don't stop until you remember the oneness, the love. So this is so beautiful, because just through this short little episode, we're seeing that she really started to get so disillusioned by these relationships that she started to actually question the system. And then out of that questioning, she said, let's not check the expiry date. Out of that questioning, it took her to spontaneity. Let's just be together. Let's not put it on the timeline. Wow, that's already unveiling and unraveling the mystery of relationships right there. She's doing it. She's right. She's reflecting it back for us. She's into it. Because she's intuitively into something else. She knows there has to be more. And that's how Bill Thetford and Helen Schuckman first came together before she scribed the Course. They were both working at Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center in New York City. Bill was her boss. He was distraught. He was frustrated. One day he was feeling futility. He just gave a little speech. There has to be a better way. Look at our department. Look at our emotions. Look at the way we live. There has to be a better way to live. And then to his surprise, she said, "You're right, Bill, and I'll help you find it." She joined him in there has to be a better way. That's pretty powerful. That's why we're all here in this room together, because we somewhere have said, somewhere deep in our heart and our mind, there must be a better way, and we're here because we actually believe we're going to find it. We're sure we would not be in this room if we weren't sure that we would find it. And so suddenly this little episode is taking off to be a huge inroad for us, because what we're watching with them is for us, is for our mind. They must be going towards something that's going to result in a realization. Now, we know that the ego is a trickster, we know it's ingenious, we know it's very sly and slick. You know, Jesus says, time is a trick, a sleight of hand in which figures come and go. Oh, if the ego invented this whole cosmos, and it protects itself, it must be quite clever. So the ego is going to try to sabotage this holy relationship with everything that it's got. It's going to try to take it down in guilt, in shame. It's going to do what it does. But that's again helpful for us, because if we watch that, we're going to see the trickery and the trap of going for holiness, because they're laughing. They're lighthearted. They're not even looking, and well, he's looking now, but he's just seeing a reflection of the body. There's nothing showing. And as long as we look in the mirror and we see the body as ourself, then that's the self-deception. Our mind will never be content with that association, that affiliation. Okay, we're going down the rabbit hole tonight. We are going down, 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 down to the bottom of the rabbit hole through relationships, just like Jesus does in his Course in Miracles. He says, let's do it together through relationships. Meditation, it's okay. Fighting against sin, yeah, people try that. But your way will be different. A holy relationship is given you as the means for awakening. The Master, Jesus Christ, is going to use relationships to teach us who we are. He's using what the ego made. He's turning the tables 360. He's using the ego's most boasted gift, its most secret weapon, its ultimate defense. And Jesus is like, give me that thing. I'm going to turn it. I'll turn it on you and try some salvation. How's that? Let's try some salvation instead. Here we go. Hold on to your hat. This is the unconsciousness. This is the ego coming up, even to a happy, laughing relationship when there's hiding, protecting, private thoughts, keeping things hidden, and the fear, when he kept looking at the device when he was in the tub, it's just doubt. The ego is doubt. The ego plays on doubts. The ego plays on fears. It will try to sabotage everything. It will try to sabotage relationships to protect itself. It's like a little spider that's down a well, and it likes the darkness. That's what the unconscious mind is. It's like the ego lives in darkness. And then if you take a flashlight and you put that flashlight down the well, the spider will move away from the light to hide in the darkness. Wherever the light goes, the spider will hide. It is a hidden belief system. It knows, it fears being exposed because everything is based on hiding and schemes and defense mechanisms and layers upon layers of falsity. Hiding. And the only way is you have to get a big spotlight with Jesus and go over the well and go, turn on the spotlight. And then the spider is, the well is lit up. Everything is lit up. There's no darkness to hide in because the light is so vast. It just lights up the whole well, and the spider. So we can see. And we've been through this scenario with relationships, where things are going along well, and there's hopefulness, and there's a spark there. And here, Jesus is even telling us, your way will be different. Holy relationship is your means for awakening. It's your means for awakening. And we can see that this is what the ego does. It brings up the guilt, and then it turns into, why did you look? And then he tried to give a context. We actually had 5 years. That did not go over well. We had 5 years, and now you're telling me we have 1 hour? But it's the time factor. And what Jesus tells us is time and eternity cannot coexist. Time and eternity cannot coexist. What did the Bible say? Perfect love? Yeah, time and eternity. Perfect love, eternity. Cast out fear. Time. That's what he's saying. Perfect love casts out fear. So now we get to watch, because here we knew the ego would come in and always tries to crush the hope of every relationship. It's always trying to protect itself by the projection of the shame and the guilt. What seems to be a broken relationship, what seems to be a breakup is a projection. But remember, everything I perceive is what I believe. So I have to believe first in the devastation before I can perceive it. And that's just what Jesus did. He rose up and be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. Be of good cheer, I have overcome the ego. I've overcome Satan. I've overcome the devil. He rose up, and then he could see any scene that the world would offer, because he knew he wasn't in the scene. He was the I am prior to time. He was the one, and so is everyone, ultimately. And that's the message. Follow me because God loves us. We have a loving Creator. Okay. Let's just see how Jesus pulls the string and gets turns the tables now on the ego. That's the best part. How do you turn that around? That's the fun. There goes the coach. Yeah, she was going for 5. She never could get it. She said, "Coach, count to 4." And you're out. So you have to, if you're going to go for divine love, you have to let go of the system, the belief system of this world, the system that made this world, the system that's the fabric, in the fabric of this world. You have to let go of the foundation of this world, which is the ego, because you can't see a forgiven world, you can't see a happy dream of non-judgment if the whole system is based on judgment and comparison. And even all the relationships are based on judgments and comparisons. There's no way. So she's like, "Coach, count to 4." So she has an intuition. She wants to meet with Frank, and that she's letting go of the coach. Enough of your coaching. She's now realized that this is not relationship coaching and this is not life coaching. She's been listening to death coaching. She's been listening to death coaching and take a hike and go drowned to that death. She just skims it. Coach, count to 4. 1, 2, 3. So that's what Jesus is encouraging us. He's saying, you've been listening to the wrong advisor. And when you listen to the ego, it's a singularly poor choice of an instructor. It's a death wish. We've been listening to a death wish that's emphasizing the past and judgments and categories and distinctions. How are we going to love with agape love? How are we going to love everyone? How are we going to love with an all-inclusive love if we're still holding on to those little partial judgments and things? So this is the first key. I think that's the first. You can see the bubbles. You can't even see the device anymore. It's sunk to the bottom. And now it gets really exciting. Pray, listen, and follow. Oh, they got the prayer locked in, and they got the listening locked in, and then she's like, "Let's go." Notice, no hesitation. She is on it, like a she's like, "Come, let's go then." And they don't even know what's going to happen. But they don't even need to know what's going to happen because the prayer is locked in and the following, they intuitively are locked in because she's checked the coach and she's just checked the system. She's not listening to the death system anymore. And so that is what the key to salvation is, the key to release. It's like the Matrix, like Neo. Enough of this stuff with these images. So these are the 998 times they've gone for the perfect soulmate. And now Jesus is taking away the soulmate concept as well. Because there's only one soul. They tried it 998 times. And they could see all the times they tried it and got stuck. The ego blocked it, and now they're up there. And it's like going for the perfect 1,000. Now they're seeing the anomaly, like when Neo went with the architect and saw the anomalies, all the different ways he played it out, where he was fighting and in conflict. That's the anomaly. And so this is the end of reincarnation. We're watching the end of reincarnation where Jesus is like, no. How many lifetimes have I had? No, that's not the question. Do you want to know your Father's will for you? That's the question. That's the question. Not how many times have I messed this up. The question is, do I want to know my Creator's will for me? And she did the Neo thing. She just, when they came with the tasers, she just calmly, oh no, oh no. 998 rebellions logged. 998 attempts to rebel against God. And the 998 rebellions against God, what did the system call them in the world? 99.8 ultimate match. Oh, to the ego, the soulmate is the ultimate match, but not to God. Those were the rebellions logged to try to avoid God's love. And these two were like, no, no, it can't be true. It can't be. Even when they were paired up with their ultimate match at the end, they were like, no. Do you believe the system? No. Let's go. That's what it takes. It takes like a let's go spirit. Like, let's go. Let me know the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and the door shall be opened. This is the opening. And this is the end of trying to get to a point in time and space of I mean, if you're going for the soulmate, which seems like a very high, elusive kind of thing in this world, Jesus is basically saying, aim higher. He's saying, remember what the ancient Greeks said? Know thyself. He says that in the Course, know thyself. There is nothing else to seek. No matter what the teacher you choose, the goal of the curriculum is always know thyself. There is nothing else, he says. So what a movie, as we see 998 rebellions logged. Wow. Thank you, Black Mirror. Holy Spirit's giving us a Black Mirror. Okay, any reactions, or what did you experience with this beautiful little...
I didn't get it. I don't. So they tried to escape, right? So they're going over the wall, right? And they're getting out of the system, and in getting out of the system, they just found that it was all just an illusion. Is that all we're saying here? Is that,
the world disappeared. You can see it.
Yeah. But it disappeared, and okay, so it just. Wow, that's a crazy show, man. I'm serious. I'm like, what the F did I just see?
That's right. Like an LSD trip or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was tripping right at the end.
That's it.
Okay.
Because it's, like I was sharing recently, I said the world is backwards and upside down. So, and we can't judge our advances from our retreats, and we don't know our best interest in any situation. It's because of the perceptual problem. It's because of trying to hold on to the private minds and the private thoughts and the personality self that's the rebellion. That's the rebellion attempt. Say, no, I'm not the Christ. I'm just this little character, and that's all I'm left with now. I'm not the Christ, this vast light. I'm this little teeny character. And then as you start to approach it, to the teeny character, the disappearance of the universe is a frightening thing. It's, it's almost like trying to take a fish out of the water, and the fish is like flipping all over the place on the beach. Where's my water? Flip, 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 flippity gibbet. It's flipping all around because it's fearful if all you've ever known is water, and then you find yourself on a beach. Because it's so unknown, it's so different from the past. And that's why the spiritual journey, in the end, it's like you have to face the darkest of dark. I mean, I remember my friend Frances, she one time sent me an article that was written by the men or the people who had developed this practice called Vipassana. Has anybody ever heard of Vipassana?
Sure.
Well, these were the inventors. These were the masters of Vipassana. I think they decided to all come together and share what they were experiencing, come back to Thailand and everybody share their experiences of Vipassana. And they went around the room with these Vipassana masters, and they were like, How was your experience in it? Well, I went into deep meditation, and then I went deeper and deeper and deeper into the mind, and then I hit like a wall. I hit like a force field. I hit something down there. It was spooky. It was scary. Vipassana is no, light-hearted thing. That's a lot of dedication and devotion to Vipassana. But these were the Vipassana masters, and they were like down, 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 hitting some kind of a wall. Did you hit it? They said, yeah. Did you? Yeah, they all agreed. There's something down there. It's like a wall, a block. We don't know what it is, but it's down there. And that's how it feels when you start to go down toward the light. Jesus talks about that really graphically, where he says you have to go down to a cornerstone in your mind, and you have to lift the cornerstone at the bottom of your mind. And he says the ego is screaming, don't you dare, don't you dare lift that cornerstone. Because the ego says God will strike you and kill you if you lift that cornerstone. Because to the ego, you've done it. You've separated from God. And if you lift that cornerstone, God's going to get you good for the fall from grace. And then Jesus is there saying, no, let's lift it together. You'll see what's there, because it's only light that's underneath the cornerstone of this world, that's sealed, is light. And that's why we always talk about guidance. We talk about faith. We talk about trust. We just coming back to the present moment with whatever seems to be. Okay, I don't have to figure out the grand scheme of things. I just have to be here this moment. Like Ram Dass said, be here now. Just have to be here now. And just tune in to what it is that I'm being shown. Because the guidance will unwind our mind from the ego. We have to put the spirit in charge of that. We can't think that we can personally figure out the way to escape something that made the personal. The person's not going to escape because the person's part of the projection. So we can't just cling to identifying with the personal self. We have to go down, down, down. But that's what this was at the end. They just had willingness. They just had a strong willingness. There must be a better way. Let's go, she says, let's go. And he said, yes. And then they did. And then what seemed to be the thing that they'd been struggling with, the system, the world, the characters in the world, and then even the wall. Remember, they'd drive by in those little carts and go, whoa, look at that vast thing. Even the wall disappeared, in that connection. Now that's a holy relationship that Jesus is saying, that's how I take you. You follow me, I'll take you all the way to the light, to all the way to the light. And it's not like you're going to go into the light and tell your war stories. No, when you go into the light, that's it. That's all there is. There is no darkness. It's the darkness is forgotten. Just like before, God was forgotten. Now it's flipped. Now the darkness gets forgotten. So that's why it's a total transformation of the mind from upside down thinking to going into the light. And we've had some great movies and clips. Maybe one night we'll have to maybe do some clips. We've got what was the Nines? Has anybody seen our Nines clip? Oh. We've got to show Paul the Nines clip that we've got. Oh, that's a good movie where he's a computer, he invents a world, and then the Spirit shows him how to, encourages him to leave it behind, the whole world that he invented. So there's some really good movies and everything. Thank you, Paul. We got a lot of hands going up over there.
I was just going to say that about a month ago, my family and I were discussing this and saying it's the only Black Mirror that has a happy ending.
Nice. That's good. Your family's onto it. There's a lot of hands up.
It's kind of a question. Doesn't this movie trying to say that you need two to escape? You find your soulmate and then you escape, or just...
Well, if you look at Jesus, he's going to use what the ego made. So he's got a section in there where he starts talking about the ark. He's not just talking about, remember Noah's ark, in the Bible? And all the animals were taken what? 2 by 2. All of them entered the ark when the great floods came. And so Jesus he's such a master. He has a section that he calls the Ark of Peace. Not Noah's Ark, but the Ark of Peace. And he says, the Ark of Peace is entered 2 by 2. So here's the master saying, oh, I know what you believe in. I know what you believe in. I still got you. I still got you. Kimberly.
Can you help me with how you let go of attachments, or maybe prevent yourself from forming them in relation to, it doesn't even have to be a romantic relationship, but just with family, children. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this. It starts with the prayer, which is just heal my mind, or take me to truth, or show me the way, and then begins kind of an unwinding process where you have this bright calling. You have this thing in your heart. It's so deep that it's like calling you. It's like a magnet drawing you. It's very strong. And then what you're really asking for is a transformation in the perception of the world, the perception of the relationships. So that's what Jesus puts as a preface to his workbook, 365 lessons, is that he says, I'm going to teach you a different perception of yourself and of everyone else. So what's the greatest fear in terms of attachments with romantic partnerships, with families, with children, is there is an attachment to, we'll call it a configuration. Out of all the potential configurations, that's a configuration. And it seems like when Jesus says, I'm calling you out of the world, it seems like he's calling us out of all past configurations, because they bring guilt. There's guilt underneath them. So as we go on and on, I was just talking to somebody recently, and I think back in maybe the 1990s, I was working with a group of students, a group of mothers, actually, and they were asking the same question 2.5 decades ago. They were saying, well, David, if I was in your situation, it seems a lot easier than in the situation I find myself in. And I said, well, it can't be that any situation is more difficult than the other, because truth has no exceptions. So it's just a belief that holds us to a particular self-concept, we'll call it. And there's many different configurations of that self. But it's not just the personality self and the characters, but it's the whole cosmos. It's the stars and everything. It's the whole perception. But I had a group of students, and I remember one of the students, she came across a book of Indian saints, female Indian saints, who had, over the centuries, had to face or ask the same question that you're asking. And India is deep, India, that is a deep, deep reflection of spiritual awakening. It's a pinnacle kind of, and the whole book was all of these women talking about all their experiences of being taken toward the light, by the light, and unwinding moment by moment, day by day, from the purpose of spiritual awakening to a different way of perceiving everyone. And so the great fear is, do I have to leave my children, Or do I have to leave my partner? That's, of course, what comes up in awareness. And then what Jesus is saying is, no, you don't have to leave anybody behind. You just have to include everyone in to the love. Just add the other 7.9 billion to your husband and your children. You see? Jesus always comes into inclusion. Otherwise it would be a sacrifice, you see. Big sacrifice, leaving them behind. But Jesus flips it all and says, I want you to see everyone with the same love. Start where you believe you are, and then little by little take everyone in. So when I first started doing all the travels, I remember my first trip out was like 5.5 weeks on the road with Jesus, and lots of miracles on the road with Jesus, lots and lots of mind-blowing kind of miracles. But I did have to say there was points along the way where I was like, I miss my mom, I miss my dad, miss my sister, miss my grandma, and Jesus said, hang in with me with these miracles. Hang in with the miracles. You need the miracles. This is a course in miracles. You need lots of them. You need daily miracles. You need to become habitually miracle-minded for these missing feelings or these sacrifice feelings to go away. You need to start to let the miracle expand your perception so that you meet anyone with the same grace, with the same love, like Jesus did. He demonstrated that. He met everyone. And so Jesus says, when you meet anyone, remember it's a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. And we remember what he said 2,000 years ago. He said, that which is born of the flesh is flesh. That which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Be born again. And then Nicodemus said, how can I be born again to a woman's womb? Jesus, that's not it. Nicodemus. That's not it. Hang with me. It's deep, but and so it has to be guided. I'll just say that what we've been talking about, just the trust, the faith, and then the guidance. One step at a time. And over the years we've just had many, many experiences, many, many parables, many people who came with the same question and the same fears and the same doubts and had to face those things. And just more unconscious darkness coming up. And well, all I can say is it is guided, and we come to our destiny through praying, listening, and following. We can't do more than that. We can't take it more than this moment. We have to let it be given to us what to say, what to do. And that's what happened in the movie. You could see with her, as she was going through those relationships, she started to get a little by little, a little more detached from the bodies as the relationships just repeated and repeated. Like she was feeling there has to be more. What's the answer here? She started to get more disillusioned, but it's more like Jesus is drawing us through the miracle. He's saying, no, let me perform miracles through you. And just let me keep performing miracles through you, and that will loosen your mind from this belief in sacrifice. Sacrifice is the ego. When we feel sacrifice, it's not just Christians or fundamentalists or Catholics that have a problem with sacrifice and punishment. It's at the base of the entire belief system. So that for us, we're dealing with the belief in sacrifice every day. We're facing sacrifice. We have to face that it's a sacrifice to give up what we believe is our value and remember heaven. We have to give up the belief. So there are points in the Course where Jesus is like saying, well, you may hesitate, you may feel fear, you may feel doubt, but you do finally come to a point where you realize you aren't in charge of salvation's plan. You are here to receive, moment by moment, miracle by miracle, the plan, and to receive it and extend it, to be a bringer of the light, to be the light of the world is our function. And you work with what you believe in. So if it's with a husband and with children, that's where the Holy Spirit meets you exactly where you believe yourself to be. You perceive yourself to be there. The Holy Spirit knows, well, you're actually much, much, much more than that, quite vast. But the Holy Spirit works with the perception, and slowly, slowly, daily miracles start to loosen the mind from that perception. And then it's amazing, it's miraculous. Mother-daughter relationships are transformed, mother-son relationships are transformed, partnerships are transformed in perception, and it's from a very high perception where there's just gratitude, like, oh, thank you for mirroring and reflecting things back to me. I needed that mirroring.
I feel it loosening, like coming here was like major loosening. Like the night I came to Salt Lake City a day early, and it was one of the darkest nights of my life because I realized the attachment I had to my children. And but I also at the same time I see this, or I feel this identification with the I am and the oneness, but it's like they're two separate things. I mean, are they going to start like coming together, or the one will start to disappear and the other one will start to take over my thoughts and everything? Is that how it works?
Yeah, they will come together. As we were talking about, perfect love casts out fear. The I amness and the construct will come closer and closer together. In fact, there's a psychological defense mechanism that, of course, Helen Schuckman, the scribe, knew all these defense mechanisms from being a psychologist. And Jesus said that they seem to be apart. What you just described is dissociation. He said, you're dissociating with that. But how do you end dissociation? Bring them together. You've dissociated something, bring it together. Bring the illusions to the truth. Bring the darkness to the light. End the dissociation in mind by allowing them to be brought together. And that's what even those Vipassana founders were doing when they all were sharing notes in Thailand. How's it going for you? Some kind of wall down there. I hit a deep wall. Oh, good. Let's share. For you too. Yeah, you. Yeah, that's a wall of dissociation. That's what Jesus would call it in the mind. So that's it. You've already got the context now. You don't really have to be afraid. The ego is afraid of that, of course, but you don't have to be afraid because you're not the ego. You can welcome those coming together. And when you do, the Spirit will just speak through you. And the loving presence will just come through you. That's convincing too. When a lot of times the dream characters will go, what's going on with you? You're so different. Or what is going on? I don't understand it, but there's something helpful going on or wonderful. And sometimes the dream characters turn away. That happens too. I've had that happen a lot. I've had a lot of Course in Miracles friends over the years. Oh, David's lost his marbles. David, he's not all there. He's not all there anymore. And bye-bye. And they go bye-bye. And then I did have a friend of mine who was a student of mine for years, and she got to a point where she was working with me, following, and then I remember she went home to her suburban house, and wife or her husband and kids, and she started looking at the family photos on the wall. Yeah, pretty intense. She just was there, and she was looking at him, and then she was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Like Cypher in the Matrix. Put me back in the Matrix. Put me back. She was like, put me back in the Matrix. So I didn't see her. She kind of disappeared. And then I was out at a Course in Miracles conference in California, San Francisco, like a boutique hotel, high-rise. And instead of taking the elevator, I decided to take the stairs. So I'm walking down the stairs, and as I'm walking down, I see a figure walking down maybe a floor in front of me. I can just see the back of the figure, and then it disappears, and I see the back of the figure disappears, and I'm thinking, that looks like my student's husband. And so I got to the bottom, and I walk out, and I look, and I said, yeah, that looks like a silhouette, that looks like my student's husband. So I walk, and sure enough, he turns, and I went, oh, there he is. And he walks over, and he's there. It's a dental conference. He's a dentist with all the husbands and wives. And I look over there, and there's my student. My put me back in the Matrix student. So I just looked, and I walked over there, and she was talking to the wives and everything, and then she turned, and she looked, and she saw me, and she went, shit! like she'd seen a ghost or something, like, I banish you. I'm having my Matrix life. And another friend, Lisa Fair, she was one time, she went back to her family after following me and going into these miraculous experiences. She went back to the family, and she visited her daughter and her son. And they were there, and she was just being herself and sharing her love and sharing her joy. And her son was having a big reaction, like who are you now? And what happened to my mother? And, all these kind of things, like, who are you? And then his sister, which was older than him, said, no, she's just following her path. She's following her joy, and she's following David, and David's helping people wake up. She said to her younger brother, I'm not into that. I'm perfectly happy being a wife and a mother. But she's going for this, and this is her path. She's chosen this path. It was just such a beautiful reflection, actually, of, I honor you, I bless you. That was on that particular day. Other days, what? You abandoned me. You it can look however it looks, but remember, every situation is just a reflection of our thoughts. So we're going to draw forth reflections based on what we believe and what we think. We're going to draw forth witnesses. But you just hang with Jesus. You really just hang with the presence of love. Hang with your intuition. It won't ever let you down. Never, never, never. So, of course, it's kind of intense. It's emotional when you face the loss and the lack and the missing and all those things. It's facing, the kind of the attachments that the ego has set up. But it's beautiful. In the end, you keep your plan, you keep your focus, you keep your heart going with the spirit, and then things start to fall away. I remember for Lisa, it was loosening from her attachment with her daughter, and then with her son. And then I was visiting her one time, and her daughter was pregnant, and she was still in high school, but Lisa said, she's delivering a baby today. David, come with me to the hospital. So I go to the hospital, I go into the room with her, and so Lisa's grandchild then is born. So there's daughter, son, now there's cute little grandbaby growing, and then the grandbaby's growing up. And then Lisa would go off, travels, miracles, do all of her healing, miracle work and everything. One time she went back, and she and this grandchild had such a connection, such a close connection. But one time she went back, and she was in the room with the daughter and her son, and her son was behind her, and here comes the little grandson into the room, and the eyes got real big, and the joy came out, and the little grandson shot across the room, and Lisa went right past her, as if she didn't even exist, into the arms of her son. Just like, whoosh, there goes the grandma concept, another concept to loosen from the attachment again, over and over. It just plays out until we let it go. But we're just guided moment by moment. We can't go more than this moment. So you're just here, just taking notes, listening, absorbing, talking, extending, praying, meditating, and then Jesus, take the wheel. Hop into the passenger side. Try to enjoy the ride as best you can. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. It's beautiful. Muna.
Thank you. I really love that movie. I think it's like a gift from Jesus because of all the confusion that's been going on in my mind. It never gets easier. When you said we believe in gravity, I'm like, what is he talking about? Of course, there's gravity. And then
That's an assumption, but you're saying no. That's a real thing.
my mind started turning upside down. Went back. Oh yes, I'm the dreamer. But it's only when you said simulation, things clicked. Okay, this is a simulation. Now I understand it. It's been coming to me for a while. The problem, perceptual problem, never really spoke to me because we all have different perceptions. But it came to me recently. It's a 5 senses problem, 5 senses dream. It's believing, experiencing the world through my 5 senses, and things started changing. But the darkness is showing up today big time. And I released a lot of pain, and I had a massive cry, had to go for a walk and cry the things that were pent up within. But the movie was amazing because it finally clicked. All this pain is perceptual. I believe in it because I experienced it from the 5 senses. And that was an amazing realization. I feel this is such a gift. I'm so excited. Very, very excited that, wow, finally I see that my problems can be solved. Because my problems are emotional, psychological, physiological, pain manifested in so many different ways, and sickness. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you, Jesus. I'm feeling the love big time.
Beautiful, Muna. That makes it all worthwhile when we hear that.
Great.
Sweet. You came all the way across the ocean for that one.
It's worth it.
It was worth
Absolutely
it.
worth it.
Yeah.
Just the pieces of the puzzle coming together finally.
Yeah.
It's like each time I grab a piece of the puzzle, something else goes off. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Very elusive kind of, adjustment or readjustment or correction. But this felt everything is in place, and now I understand who I am. Still, I felt God's love as well, right at the start of the movie. I missed a lot of your talk because I was just feeling the love
That's great.
physiologically. So I thought, no people pleasing. David will forgive me. I'll just feel the love.
That's good. That's sweet.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Muna. Thank you. Okay, it's just crossed the 9 o'clock mark, so that's good. We like to make sure you have a good rest. Come out fresh. Thank you for joining me. Wow, that was a fun ride. Through relationships. Wow, we like that one. That's practical. Yeah, thank you. Have a beautiful rest.